Sorry about that delay, but I don't think you mind. It's a spectacular view of New York City. It's skyscrapers and lights coming on, emerging as the sun disappears. I was taking a shower. I was out the whole day, different boroughs. I don't know how many miles I walked today, but I must admit that the train and the buses, some taxis did most of the work. I got to see a lot of faces. I got to talk to a lot of people. I just having regular conversation with strangers. And back where I started from, to see a view that many people don't get to see. I tend to get my best thoughts in the morning and late at night, but usually early in the morning. From up here, it's hard to make out how anyone looks like. From up here, it's hard to even know who is who, how they look like, who's going where, why. We just know they're people in constant movement, like the architecture they're surrounded by, always going up to the sky. I have heard it said once that the people on the bottom can never imagine how it's like for the people at the top, and vice versa, the people at the top can never imagine what it's like for the people at the bottom. I don't think many things depict that saying more clearly than being at the top of a high-rise hotel in Midtown Manhattan, surrounded by even taller buildings, but also looking down at shorter buildings. And from up here, you can't make out any sound, sometimes an occasional siren, but no voices, just planes and the wind. One of the things I realized about many of the conversations that I had today, particularly one, is that it's terribly difficult for someone that has their mind made up to be able to change it with just words. Now, some people may think it's impossible to change someone's mind after it's made up, but I'm going to go a step further and say it's extremely difficult to change someone's mind when it's made up by trying to convince them with words, a debate, argument. And perhaps that's normal. Perhaps everyone is not supposed to come around to see how the other side is living or how the other side understands things. Perhaps. From up here, it's difficult to make out who is a Christian, who is an atheist, who is a Muslim, who is an Arab, who is an Asian, who is an African, who is a Caucasian. You can just make out different colored lights and different shaped structures. When you see things from the bottom, you miss the big picture. When you see things from only your point of view, you miss the big picture. The same can be said if you only see things from above. The higher you go, it's hard to make out details, shapes, sizes, differences. Can we blame people for not seeing the other side of the story? Should people be more curious? Can you imagine a time when there was no buildings in New York City? Can you imagine a time when there was more livestock than people in New York City? It's amazing what can happen when people work together. It's amazing what can happen when people have a goal. It's amazing what can happen when people see their power within. It's also amazing what can happen when people don't see themselves as powerless. One of the side effects of only seeing things from the bottom is that you're going to be surrounded with ideas of people from the bottom. Every now and then, you're going to be confronted with people that are as creative as you. But more often than not, they have given away their creativity for a chance to be angry, for a chance to be so-called informed and do nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know how long you're going to live? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know you can't live in war and peace at the same time within yourself? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know there is a war on your health right now? There is a war on your peace of mind, tranquility, and ability to reason. Ladies and gentlemen, there are two stories. There's stories for people on the bottom, and there's stories for people at the top. And you know what we're surrounded by when we look at all these tall buildings? A lot of big stories. Anybody that has been successful has had people helping them, or has surrounded themselves with people that know how to do things that they do not know how to do, or don't have the grand resource of time to learn how to do. In that, you should find peace. I believe the children suffer most at the moment when they realize that they've been set up bad from an early age. I believe it's the children that many times don't understand their surroundings. I believe it is the children that many times are in the middle of things that adults have put together, but they don't clearly understand it. But they're looking for some sort of guidance. I also believe that when someone is trying so hard to make you into a victim, that's the person you have to look out for. When someone is fighting so hard to tell you that everything you do is right but not pointing out your faults, that's the person you have to look out for. They're setting you up to drown. Ladies and gentlemen, when someone is telling you you have the right to be as angry as you want and to hate as much as you want, but not have a discussion or a conversation where both sides are able to express themselves, then you have been set up to fail. And usually the people who are doing the setting up are people that work for news organizations. So-called news organizations. First they drug you, then they make you angry, then they'll point your eyes in the direction that you want, that they need you to look. And once that happens, once you feel that you are right in just because they said so, once you feel that you are right just because they said so, then you just know what to say. Not what to do, we just know what to say. You know what to say to not offend. You know what to say to be perceived as a good human being. You know what to say to not have any guilt when you go to sleep at night. You know what to say to not get fired from the job that is under the same ideals. When I say ideals, I mean they're worried about getting sued if someone were to complain to HR Ladies and gentlemen, when you look out here, you see a language that you don't understand because it's not the language that's being taught to you. And it's not the language that you would even want to learn because you feel that you cannot, regardless of color. Whenever there's a big storm, it's a translation from Spanish. Whenever there's a big storm, the big winner is the fisherman. It's a bad translation. But what it means is when everybody's going at one another, the person who wins is the person with the fishing pole, the person with the net. The person with the net benefits from fish jumping all over the place because of the storm. A lot of people have been asking, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? Things that have been going on in the news recently. You know how many people are waiting by their computers just to see what someone else feels about the situation so they know what they should feel? and talk about it at work the next day. That's how far removed we are from analyzing these situations. But doesn't it seem that every summer there seems to be some kind of red flag that now we have to talk about, controlled by the media? And I called this months ago. Every summer there's something that's going to happen that the media is going to focus on to be the worst thing to get us, usually at the end of the summer, mid to the end of the summer, and this carries us on to the next season, next election cycle. Where people then have a reason to hate one another depending on what side they're on. And what it does is sells a lot of newspaper, sells a lot of ad revenue. One thing about the Super Bowl was that many media agencies realized, why just wait for one time a year to have a big media circus and we reap the rewards. From this big storm. Why not have a storm the whole year? Why not have a storm the whole year if you can sell papers, you can sell opinions, you can sell points of views? When opinions started becoming, notice how many news shows with opinions are out now. When opinions started becoming profitable, that's when you knew you couldn't get an unbiased opinion. Think about it. When church started becoming a business, that's when the religion left. In the beginning, most things were all right. But once you start making it into a business, then it takes on a new shape. And it's very removed from what it was intended to be. Were humans supposed to eat meat? Maybe. But once it started becoming an industry, then all the worst things went into food. Same thing with milk, same thing with medicine. Where we have doctors that don't cure or attempt to cure, they attempt to patch. It's like the Windows security virus. Every 2 weeks you have to download something else that's broken instead of just fixing the problem indefinitely. So you have people who are being paid to play with your emotions. You have people who are being paid to tell you what to think, how to feel, how to get along with different colors. They have people being paid to tell you how to get along with different colors, to avoid getting people angry. So instead of fixing a problem, you become like the modern day doctor that doesn't fix problems. You learn how to put a patch on it. A patch where a conversation needed to be, a patch where an understanding needed to be. So when people are suppressing so much emotion on whatever side, on whatever you think about, eventually that's going to boil over and burn everybody and have a great storm, probably a tsunami sort of thing, where everybody drowns. Ladies and gentlemen, we haven't had war in this country for a very long time. Not on American soil. So the best way to deal with that dilemma, being sarcastic, is to make a war within your mind and with your own citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I'm going to say.